All right, we're going to talk today how Miss Jody Layne here grew one practice from $500,000 to $4.2 million, a home run practice. The exact methodology that she used step by step, the one mistake that she regrets, and also her 5-step framework that any hormone practice or really any healthcare practice can do if you're a cash pay practice to start being profitable, take home money, and really hit your big vision. All this on the Garlic Marketing Show, but of course it's brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best ways to market any healthcare practice is through your patient stories. Go to videocasestory.com/finder, where we can help you find those perfect $1 million case stories. All right, let's get started. You helped a firm grow from 400K to 4.2 million?
Somewhere around that.
Yeah, that's a nice growth strategy.
Yeah, in 7 years.
In 7 years, that's fantastic. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you did a lot beforehand. You were in print marketing, you were in political marketing. You've worked for an agency before and doing this. And so marketing is not new to you. Mm-mm. So and I want to talk today a little bit about that growth that you did, how it evolved, and then the framework that you use for other clinicians now.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about when you first got there, when you first got to this clinic, what was going on?
Well, so I actually started with the clinic before I worked there. So
Okay.
I had started an agency in 2015 called Smart Growth Marketing with partner Darian Hill, and we picked up this client, Dr. Carazella. And I have had a lot of different clients in marketing over the last 25-some years. And
Since you were 10.
Since I was 10 years old, exactly. That's why you're my good friend. I had never had a client with an industry that was so easy to sell.
Yeah.
Like hormones were the easiest thing to market because it was a true problem that people were dealing with. And this was a scientifically proven solution to that problem. And so we did this marketing for the first 2 years, and I just loved it. And as a matter of fact, during that first 2 years, I recognized some of the symptoms that I was researching that hormone imbalance caused and saw those in my husband and said, you need to get in here. And without getting into a lot of personal details, his life just completely changed.
That's
so
great.
I was hooked.
Yeah.
And so I had become kind of friendly with the owner, and one night he said, can I take you out to a really nice steak dinner? Because I'd love to pick your brain because I can't find a good practice manager. And up until that point, I had, like I said, been in marketing agencies pretty much my whole career, owned some, worked for some, and I really wanted to focus on a brand. So during this dinner, when he was telling me his huge growth strategy that he had this in his head but didn't know how to get there, after 3 glasses of wine, I said, hire me, I'll do it. And it was just one of those bold moments that changed my life.
That's a great hiring strategy.
Right?
Get
the girl
them drunk.
Thank you, Del Fresco's. So yeah, so he was like, absolutely. And so I came on board as a COO because I didn't really want to focus on just marketing. I love business development. And he had this vision of 6 clinics, $10 million. It was a big dream. And like I say, it was only at about $500,000, $600,000 at the time. So I joined the team and very, very early on realized that what I needed to do to grow this clinic was not make it a doctor's office. I needed to treat it like it was just any retail business because it was a cash pay practice. People were not used to not using their insurance. I mean, now I think people are a little more accustomed to that, but back in 2017, not so much.
Everything was insurance, yeah.
Exactly. And so we just focused on culture, focused on good marketing, focused on good pricing, and the entire patient experience, and it just started to take off.
And what was the first thing that you did when you got in there?
The very first thing I did was a business plan.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
And most of them don't have a business plan. I mean, most medical professionals have.
Most businesses don't have a business plan.
Yes.
Yeah, because either they think that it's some like 2,500-page executive document that they're never going to look at, that they spend $10,000 to do, or it's just a one-sheeter. And it really should be something, in the middle. And
1,200 pages.
1,200 pages. Maybe a little bit closer to the 1 page. But I'm a big EOS girl. I love the EOS methodology, so I read Traction a couple times before I even got to the clinic, and I put that into place. And so we did a 2-day workshop, just the owner and I, and we just fleshed it all out. And that business plan to this day is still what that clinic uses to make sure that they're hitting their goals and developing their programs.
That's amazing. And so what were the keys to that great business plan?
Well, the first thing was understanding what the core focus and core values were. That is, again, right out of the EOS methodology. And it was making sure that, especially in the wellness industry, when you don't have a core focus, it's very easy to get distracted. There are so many cool things out there that you can do.
There's always something new.
Something new.
Always something new.
And so we really defined what our core focus was going to be. And as a matter of fact, it was 5 years in that we strayed from that core focus and we saw some downturn. So it almost proved us right that really we needed to stay true to that. And then core values. And the core values were important because everything we did from a culture perspective from then on came from those core values. And we did a lot. We brought in staff meetings. We started closing down once a quarter for quarterly meetings.
Love it.
We did quarterly reviews based off values. We had the employees rate us as a company based off values. Like everything we did came from that. So that was step one. Step two, and probably one of the most important steps, were to create goals. So most business owners and providers are no different. They don't really have a clear vision of what they want their clinic to go.
Not even a subtle vision. I can't tell you how many people I say, if this works in 18 months, what will have happened? They're like, I don't know.
I'll be richer.
Yeah, and like I'll have tons of people coming in the door. I'm like, so you don't know what the end goal is, but you want me to get you there.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that the goal planning should be flexible. Like we're not future predictors. We can't determine exactly what's going to happen 10 years from now, 3 years from now. But we can definitely look at 10 and 3 years as our guiding light. Like this is where we're going, and we'll pivot as needed. But year one should be solid. We should know by service category exactly what our revenue goals are. And then we can figure out exactly how many patients we can bring in, which then we can figure out how many leads we need so that we can tell the marketing company, okay, we don't just want you to market us, we want you to market us and get us at least 45 leads per month in this area so that we can close 50%. Like we can really use the metrics to kind of save money.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that most people leave off.
I want to stop right there. Saving money is a big deal because you can get the metrics without saving money.
Yes.
Like you could spend $1,000 a lead to pay $500, right? So that was an important part of it, like looking at the profitability of that.
Yeah. So it's a couple things. I mean, one, it's knowing exactly how many leads you need in order to close and get the revenue that you need. But yeah, like you want to continue to close the gap on what your conversion is. And so yeah, I mean, so many people, they start with what's my marketing budget. As a matter of fact, I'm asked all the time. I go to conferences and doctors are always asking me, what should my marketing budget be? And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. How much money do you want to make? Like if you don't know that, then you're just guessing. Yeah. And marketing companies kind of hope you're doing that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of marketing companies that are like, we'll just take your money.
Exactly.
Just take your money for stuff that...
We'll get you leads.
We'll get you leads, or not even get you leads, right? We'll put you up on a billboard.
Yeah.
Right? And we'll put you in a magazine.
Yeah.
And you glossed over it for a second, but you said 3 and 10-year goals. And I love that because Gino Wickman, EOS, and you got to check out the episode with him, and also our case story with him. But it was one of the biggest things he ever said that I think is so important. And tell me a little about the importance of 10-year goals.
Yeah, so every decision you make today should be in service of your 10-year goal. And I'm not sure if Gino said that or heard that someplace else, or maybe just I thought of it. But I truly do believe that if you know that where you want to go is 10 locations in 4 different states, like you got to be planning for that today. And it's also really helpful to know where you're going so that you don't build and have to rebuild later. And I'll give you an example of that. I worked with this nurse practitioner. I never physically met her, but we do a business plan workshop, and it's one-on-one over Zoom. And I've got all these activities that we do inside of a presentation so that I learn what the provider wants.
Do you have a landing page for this business? Are you going to have for the business plan workshop?
Yes, I do now.
Okay. Yeah. So where can someone access this business plan workshop?
It's on our website, so acceleratedmedicalpractices.com, and then under the services business plan workshop.
All right. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So tell me a little bit more about this nurse practitioner.
Yeah, so we're working together and we're going through the activities, and she got her 10, 3, and 1 year goals, and she is creating this masterpiece. And we were done, and her 4 hours was over, and we're just chit-chatting, and she was telling me how much she loves to travel, and she wants to be on the road 75% of the time throughout the year. And I was like, but you just built this business that in 10 years, you're going to have 5 physical locations, and you're going to be doing IV therapy, which you can't do virtually. And she was like, yeah, you're right. So honestly, my heart went out to her, and I was like, you know what, let's just scratch it all. And we started over. And we actually built a plan for the business she wanted, not the one she thought she wanted.
That's, folks, I cannot tell you, I've talked about this a lot, but it's the business that you actually want. And and I see this in a lot of marketing agencies. They're like, oh, I want to build a $100 million business. I've heard this before. And I'm like, but what do you want out of it? I want freedom. I want this. Like,
freedom in a $100 million business? That doesn't sound like freedom.
Yeah, no. Well, exactly. I'm like, maybe you can sell that 15 years from now, but there's a lot of places where you're going to have zero freedom along the way.
Absolutely.
And it's fine if you want the $100 million business, if that's what you really want, willing to sacrifice everything else for it. But building the business you want, and it's really a lot easier than people think, right?
Well, and we're lucky. We live in a time right now that you can build, even a $100 million business in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
And so if you're somebody that wants to go to an office every day and you want a large staff and you want that culture, you can build your clinic that way. But if you want to be like this nurse practitioner and be on the road 75% of the time, you can do that too with virtual telehealth medicine. So there's lots of ways to get to the end goal. And it's just a matter of finding somebody that's going to pull out of you all the pieces of your life so that your business plan fits it.
Yeah, I love that. And because, I know writing a business plan on your own, especially if you've never done it before, is freaking hard.
Absolutely.
And if you've done it before, it's still kind of hard because sometimes we don't admit what we want. Or if you're a true entrepreneur, you've got shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
I've got friends like that. And they're like, well, this is literally just talking to someone. And they're like, well, this is what I want. And then like the next day, but I can do this and this and this and this, right? I'm like, no, this is what you want. Stay focused.
Well, and someone that's also not emotional. Like I'm not, as much as I get excited about all of my clients' businesses, and I really do probably more than I should, I'm not emotionally attached. It's not my life. So I can question them and get to the heart of what really is going on behind the scenes when I start to hear things that don't make any sense. Like, I want this business with 10 locations and I want to travel.
Awesome.
And then the third part, I think something that most people miss, even people that do create business plans, is projecting out your expenses. And that is really important because it takes something to run a business, right? Especially a brick and mortar clinic like most hormone providers have. And so if you don't predict how much you need to spend, and I'm talking about throughout the year, because you may need to hire staff along the way and have kind of like that picture of, I'm growing here, so I have to spend more here. Then what often ends up happening is you price yourself incorrectly because you're pricing yourself for what you are today. And then nobody wants to get into any kind of a doctor's environment where I'm a patient, I'm paying you $300 a month, and all of a sudden you jack my price up to $400 a month because you hired 5 more people.
Yeah.
So I like to make sure that they're looking at their overhead, their fixed expenses, their variable expenses for the projected end of the year to at least get them to that place, and we price from there.
It's math.
It's math, which I'm actually not very good at, but Excel really is. So
you're good at slowing things down and making sure they're making that plan, and instead of going, oh, we want to make $1 million, we need 1,000 leads, and we're going to make $1 million.
Absolutely.
And then, because I know that people like that too. I know people have $10 million businesses, but they spend $11 million, which really sucks.
And they're little hidden expenses that people don't think about. As a matter of fact, one of the things we do in our workshop is we've created this massive overhead worksheet. And it includes every possible expense that a clinic could have. So I built that off of some of the more successful businesses that I've worked with. So a little startup isn't going to have 75% of those expenses, but it gets them to start thinking like, oh, I forgot to tell you my malpractice insurance costs, and I forgot to tell you this storage unit I have with some equipment over here, and all these expenses are truly important.
Yeah, and you spend $5,000 a month on Costco treats, right?
Exactly.
And like, where's my, that's a full salary, $60,000.
Right. And then, and I think the biggest value of this whole business planning thing, which we did very well in our clinic, is that every month, or at the very least every quarter, you're looking at what were your revenue goals, what were your projected expenses, and did you hit those? Now, if you didn't hit those, that's where you start to figure out the why. So if your revenue is way too high, or I shouldn't say too high. If it's higher than your goal, then you were just maybe a little too conservative, or you've got a great marketing program going
Yeah.
on. And if it's below your goal and you knew that your goal was realistic, now you start to look. Because there's places in the clinic that you're losing money that you would never think of. It could be the front desk. So when someone walks in and they're typically paying $3,500 a year, they want that experience to be beautiful. Someone knows their name, knows their, asks them how their kids are, whatever, at least smiles.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Says hi.
Sometimes even the provider. Providers get really, fine-tuned on what the patient is saying, and they forget to ask questions.
Yeah.
And those questions could reveal other issues going on in that person's life that they can solve with whatever treatments that they have, but they get just kind of wrapped up in the conversation. So there's lots of places you can look for where the sales are down, and quite honestly, you could help people more that way.
And also, keeping clients longer. I mean, we were talking about the other day, a 5% increase in customer satisfaction leads to 25 to 100% increase in profits. And it's such a simple thing that...
Totally.
Like,
and in hormone clinics, even more so, because lifetime value of a hormone patient is about 10 years. Because you get on hormones and you're staying on them until the end of your life if you want to continue to get the results. Your body doesn't just start producing hormones naturally. Yeah. So typically a patient will stay with a clinic for about 10 years if you treat them really well.
If you treat them well.
So imagine if you had that kind of ad spend.
I mean, you could double, double your revenue.
Yes.
Just by being nicer, or thinking not just by being nicer, but thinking about their entire experience.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, now and we really haven't even talked about the marketing piece, and the lead generation piece. But also, like, if they're happier, they probably refer more people.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, and you should give them a way to do that. At most of the clinicians that I meet on day one before we start working together will say to me, I don't do any marketing and I'm doing great. Pat myself on the back because they're so proud of themselves. And I said, what a missed opportunity. If so many of your new patients are coming in because of word of mouth, that means that
word of mouth is marketing.
There's so many more people that aren't coming in who know about you.
Yeah.
Because you don't have some sort of referral system that you should be putting into place in order to make sure that you can capture those leads that haven't called yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they look you up and you have nothing online, and they're like, I mean, I can't tell. There's a lot of people that, and they're not going to call you and go, you know what, your website sucks.
You're right.
And I don't know anything about you, and you look like you haven't been doing this long enough, so I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah.
Right? They just don't call.
Yeah.
Or they try and call and there's no follow up.
Yeah. That's very, very true. Well, and I do feel for hormone clinicians a little bit because there's a lot of rules and regulations about what you can and cannot say, and it can get a little scary.
Yeah.
Because you can't make promises, you can't make guarantees. They're human beings. You can't promise that they're going to get certain results. And so sometimes they'll take the not easy way, but also the safe route and go with one of these web companies that just produce templates for the same hormone clinics over and over and over again. And so they're nice brochure sites.
Yeah.
And so they may even learn a little bit, but there's nothing to do. All there is to do on a site like that is book a consult. 75% of people who come to your website are not ready to book a consult. As a matter of fact, if they wanted to book, they'd probably just call you.
95% of them,
yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I bet you, most of them, because I see tons of contact pages, and even the people that are ready, you probably have a 5% conversion on your contact page.
Yep.
Think about all the rest of the people.
Yep.
And so what are some of the things that they need to be doing?
Well, in marketing?
Well, you know what? Let's go back to the story of the clinic. So you've got the business plan down. You got everything running nicely. Once you have that, what was the key to really hockey stick the growth?
Yeah. So the next thing was really making sure we had the right people in place to present the membership plans. So we call them patient liaisons in the industry. They're typically salespeople. And up until that point, we had a wonderful woman who was a really, really great relationship builder. She cared for her patients like nothing. But she wasn't a driven salesperson. And when you start to spend a lot of money on marketing and you've got all these leads coming in, those people need to be followed up on.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have the right people in place. So we brought somebody in who was like a real, true relationship building salesperson and created a program for a patient liaison. So that person knew when to contact, what to say, what the objections that the patient would have, how to overcome those objections, getting them into the consult and all of that. And then that clinic really took off when we replicated that model with up to 5 people. So when I left that clinic, there were 5 people in the sales department.
Wow. That's what you got to do, right?
That's what you got to do. Yeah, and you grow slowly. You don't need to hire before you're ready.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody that is really working those leads, and it's a doctor's office, so I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about potential patients as just traditional marketing leads, but that's really what they are, and you've got to relate to it that way.
Yeah.
Because they're people that are suffering from an issue that are not moving forward for one of 3 reasons.
Yeah.
They don't understand why insurance doesn't cover it. It must be holistic, weird medicine because insurance doesn't cover it. They're terrified because they read some study that says that it's going to cause cancer, or someone at a cocktail party told them not to do it, or they're shopping around. But all 3 of those things you can overcome in a lead call.
Yeah, and you're helping people move
Absolutely.
forward. If it's a good product, like you said, it helps your husband out, and helps you see it helping people out.
Oh, so many people.
Yeah, and you're not selling them some piece of crap or
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so you're helping people, and you got to move them across. I mean, weight loss, right? Good weight loss things. You should be selling these people because they need to be sold, because otherwise, someone who's not good is going to sell them.
And that's a really interesting point, because that is something that I'll tell a provider who feels a little uncomfortable in the selling process. I'm like, look, they're going to go get their hormones somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you want them to go get it from a place that isn't going to do labs, isn't going to follow up with them, isn't as trained as you are, or you want them to get it from you?
Or a crappy product.
Or a crappy product.
Yeah.
So it really, really is important. It's almost self-serving to be out there in the market and attracting people to you, because you're going to be able to help them in the end.
Yeah, you are, and it's definitely, like, I see this with experts, like true experts in every field, is they're afraid to be salesy.
Yeah.
Because I'm an expert. I'm like,
Yeah.
but you're the one who they need to be in front
Right.
of.
You don't have to be salesy, confident.
Well, and method, have a method.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like you're talking
have a
about,
method.
and have a system to doing it, and understand their objections and speak to them, and know how to have the conversation to move them along the path.
Absolutely. And I was just here listening to you, interview the Feckin' Fig folks. Almost messed that up. And they were talking about, what happens after the lead comes in. And that is so important in this industry too, because the life cycle of the lead is very different depending upon the mindset of the person who is being attracted. And, we can go the whole inbound methodology and say that if they responded to this, then they're in the awareness stage. But I don't think that's as true anymore as it used to be. Now people are just responding to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so you really don't know what stage they are in the buyer's journey. So we had a theory in our clinic. It was like, it wasn't a no until someone unsubscribed. Like, you don't know where they are, what they're dealing with. Maybe their spouse doesn't want them to go. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't have the money today, but they're saving up. Like, you just really want to make sure that you're always being of service and providing more information. And there's so much information to give until that person says, I'm done.
And saying the same stuff over and over. Because it is, like you said, it's a journey. I do this with buying a garbage disposal, right? And it's like, it's not even a major life thing. I'm like, oh, I need to get the garbage disposal. Oh, I looked at it. Oh, I'm like, oh, I got distracted. We went on vacation.
Yep.
And it's a $200 garbage disposal, not life-changing hormone therapy.
Which, by saying that, they reminded me something else that is just so important for these providers are Google reviews. I mean, we could talk forever about the value of Google reviews, but when it comes right down to it, if you're going to go to a doctor, you want to know that that doctor or that nurse practitioner is a quality person.
Yeah.
So what we would always say to our patients is, would you mind doing a review? Not for us. But what I'm asking you to do the review is so that you can help somebody else who was in the position you were in when you started and get over that fear.
I love that.
And it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, that's, like when we talk about asking for someone's story, it's like, don't ask for a testimonial. Say, would you mind sharing your story so we can help more people like you?
Yes.
And it's...
Oh, you do that? I'm just kidding.
No, but it's because people will want to help other people.
Yes. Yes.
And you put it in that, and it is what it's doing.
Yeah.
Once again, it's coming back to fix it. So, you grew it. Let me ask you this. What was one or what was one thing that you did that, looking back, you would never do again?
Bring aesthetics in. So
interesting.
So remember I said the core focus, and we did something 5 years in. That was the thing. So our core focus was on hormone, metabolic, and sexual health. That's what we were focused on. And a couple of times throughout the first 5 years, there were like little dangles of aesthetics, and we were like, no. I was very firmly against it.
Interesting, because you would think it would be just a natural.
Right? And that's I started to wane a little bit and think maybe that was the natural next extension. And we got a bigger office, and we had more space, and we brought it in, and it wasn't the right fit. And it's so funny because I actually teach this in the workshop, and I should really put myself in jail for not following my own advice. But what I say is, if you're going to bring in a new service, you have got to treat it like a brand new business, meaning that you have its own goals. You have your own marketing. You have your own budget for marketing for that. Don't ever assume that this audience is going to buy this product. And that's exactly what we did. And it took a couple of years to unravel it, and it was a very expensive mistake. And we didn't hurt the practice. We kept growing as a hormone clinic, but I definitely
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction.
Kills profits.
And the hidden distraction that I never would have thought about was the staff. Because there were all these new processes that they needed to remember for different services. So when you're focused on one thing, it's like you do the same thing each and every time, and so you know exactly what the gaps are where a patient could fall through. But now there's these new services, and we're constantly reminding them to introduce the new service to the patient, and there's new paperwork to fill out, and it just got very confusing, and it created a problem with our culture.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
unintended mistake.
Yeah, and those consequences affect everything. And
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, what was it? 4.5 million.
4.2.
4.2 million. A couple $100,000. Profitable, nice profit. So you developed a framework. Tell me about is it the Power Framework?
Power Framework, yeah.
So what is that?
So the Power Framework is basically, it's like a path to success. So it starts with P, which is positioning. And in the positioning section, we want to build the business plan, build the pricing, build basically the foundation of what the clinic is going to grow from. Then it goes to O, which is operations. It's making sure that it's systematized, because there's a lot of moving parts in a doctor's office. And if you don't have systems in place, patients will fall through the cracks. And I'm sorry, nobody is okay with, I called my prescription in on Monday and here it is Friday, I don't have it. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Then the next is workforce, because I honestly believe at the bottom of my heart that your staff is the most important thing you have in your business. So you work on that culture, making sure everybody is happy, that they're entrepreneurs. And then it moves to experience. That's the E. So making sure that patient experience from start to finish is extraordinary, because people will move for price. Now, oftentimes they'll come back because they didn't realize the great results they were getting. But if they had a great experience, they never would have moved in the first place. And the last is R, which is revenue, and that's the sales and marketing piece. And we created that framework because most people that come to us want to start with R. They want to start with the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Because that's the need, right? I'm at this amount of money. I want to be at this amount of money. I must go to marketing.
Yeah.
And it's not like marketing first is wrong, but let's market small as we build all these other pieces, so that when you start to bring in 50, 60 leads a month, your clinic can handle it.
And also, if the leads are quote unquote bad, like we talked about with the fake people, that it's not because of all the other stuff missing.
Right.
And marketing is still, no matter what someone tells you, marketing's still a test.
Yes.
Like no matter what, it's always going to be a test.
Yeah.
You see, $100 million companies, billion-dollar companies making mistakes in their marketing. Yeah. And so if you don't, it really reduces the POWI reduces the cost of the testing.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. So where could someone go learn more about that power?
So if anyone wants to learn about our Power Framework, they can go to our website, acceleratedmedicalpractices.com/power.
All right. So
and you can sign up for a webinar when you get there.
And we don't expect you to be able to spell all that, so we'll put it in the show notes. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go over and watch it on YouTube. We'll put a link to it.
Accelerated, like you're speeding up, medical practices.
How much?
Okay.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Stupid GoDaddy. None of those 3-letter domains are available anymore.
So, and you have a workshop too. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So there's the business planning, I think, is, again, one of the most important pieces. So we offer a variety of ways that people can work with us to get there. There's the course. So we have the predictable profit formula, which basically is a 6-module course that basically teaches you all the principles for you to do the business plan on your own. It's $297. It's very easy to watch and easy to digest. And if you're a DIYer, if you're do-it-yourselfer, you can take the information and you can build your own course. If after watching that, or you just want to skip over, we have 2 other options. One is a group workshop. So again, if you want to pay a little bit less, but you want to be a little more guided, then in the group workshop, we work with up to 10 people within the workshop, and we then provide you all the templates. So all the documents that you could use to put in the information. And then if you know that you're somebody that isn't going to do it, like spend the money. It's a $3,500 one-on-one, we call it a workshop too, but it's the one-on-one business plan workshop. And it's just with myself or my partner, Patrick Dermody, who has done tons of these. And we have a presentation. We explain every part of the business plan so that they're on the same page as us. And at the end of every module, we have an activity, and it's fun, and we ask a ton of questions because we're pulling out of your brain exactly what you want your business to look like. Then we go do all the work. And then in addition to the work, because in that 4 hours, we're going to learn a lot about you, we then create an action plan. All the things that we think are missing in your clinic today that you need to put into place by the end of the year to reach that revenue goal.
Nice. That's amazing. And so we can go to your website, learn about all that stuff. And what's the fastest way to get a bunch of information from you?
Go to our YouTube channel.
Go to your YouTube channel. All right. Well, we'll put a link to that. And if you were to give people one piece of advice, what's the one thing, if they're a practitioner, no matter where they are, what's the one thing they should do right now?
Figure out what you need to educate your patients on. So this is a scary industry. There's a lot of people out there telling your patients that hormones are not a good thing to do. There's a ton of research that shows that it is. If you're a hormone clinician, you need to be putting content out there that teaches people the why this is good for them. Not just symptom. Everyone wants to talk about symptom issues like, oh, I have hot flashes, I'm tired, I have weight gain. And yes, hormones will solve those things. But really what hormones are there for is to keep you alive longer, but full of vitality. You don't want to live to 100, but be in a wheelchair for the last 20 years. So when you're hormonally optimized, you will live a lot longer and have a very healthy life. If your patients just know that, you're going to bring a lot more people in.
Love that. I love that. Jody, thank you so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show. Where can we follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Jody Layne.
All right, so I'll put a link to all the Jody Laynes in the show notes. But thank you so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show and helping all these. I think this is valuable for any healthcare provider, not a hormone or not.
Really any cash pay provider. So if you're a cash pay provider, we specialize in hormones because that's what we do really, really well. But really any cash pay provider, acupuncture, chiropractor, massage therapist, anyone who's spending their hard-earned dollars on wellness and they can't use their insurance, you've got to treat your business like a retail shop.
Great. And such good piece of advice. That's the one thing that they should start doing. And thank you all for making Jody and I part of your story. Make sure to check out their website. Make sure to follow her. Make sure to say hi and how awesome she is. And thanks for joining us. It's been Iron Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.